It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey, everybody, welcome in. My name is Chris, and this is a show that I record in the dark. Hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you're doing well on this Tuesday morning, 2 days before the new year. If you are listening to the podcast today, it means A, you won a championship and you're here to celebrate, or B, you are a true fan of the show. I'm just kidding. There can be crossover between those two things. But we are done with the 2025 fantasy season. Please don't listen expecting a whole lot of Week 18 talk. I'm not doing Week 18 ranks on the website. We're not talking Week 18 matchups. If your league plays in Week 18, time to find a new league. What will happen for many of the NFL teams coming this weekend won't be actual football. A lot of the players will be sitting. So certainly that's not where our focus will be. Instead, off the top of the little podcast that could for today, we'll do a little look back at what happened in Week 17. If you won your championship, that's awesome. Congratulations. I love you. I'm so happy for you. If you fell just short, that stinks. I love you too. I hope you gave yourself some time to be ticked off about it. Because you should be, because we care, of course. But if you're back here listening, it means you were able to get over it. Because we should be able to get over it. I mean, everybody has their own coping mechanism. I guess if you're so mad about how your season ended that you can't listen to a podcast the next day, I mean, if that's you, you're probably not listening. So I'd say everyone else listening is handling it pretty well. Personally, myself, I believe I mentioned a couple of times last week, I had 3 finals of the 12 leagues that I was in this year. One of them was the stacked charity league. Alas, I did not win the charity league. I think there's some good second place money that will go to Feeding America, which is my charity of choice. I did win the other 2 finals, though. As you may have heard me say, in all 3 of those leagues, the only common player was Josh Jacobs, and he obviously was one of the sad stories of the weekend. I don't think we had a choice, and I think the interior of that Green Bay offensive line was utterly pushless toast, and there came a time in that Ravens game Saturday where the Packers just, we're not even going to pretend anymore. But because he was my RB2 in all 3 of those leagues and not my RB1 because we didn't have to take him in the first round, I at least had a chance to overcome. And in the stacked league, I came close. Christian McCaffrey was my RB1 and he performed well. One of the 2 that I did win in, it was a pretty easy win. Derrick Henry was the RB1, scoring 4 touchdowns. We'll do that for you. But in the other one, that was a close game. First of all, Breece Hall. Sheesh. The most asked about player in our live stream on Sunday. Should I just play the song?
It's the part of the show where Chris asks you to name the most popular flex, and if you think you know, he will then give you a second to guess. To name the most popular flex.
Breece Hall, by far the most popularly asked about flex dude from Week 17. He makes the one play. He was my flex. I had traded for Breece Hall in that league, and it had not worked out very well until the final. I certainly needed that touchdown. And then Monday night, my RB1 was Bijan Robinson against Puka Nacua for pretty much all the marbles. And obviously, Bijan winds up one of the main MVPs of finals week, while Puka did get a late touchdown and scare the heck out of me compared to how he'd been performing. 5 for 47, not so great, although he did have that long touchdown called back by a holding penalty in the fourth quarter last night, and then also almost made a sick catch to get the Rams in field goal range to tie at the end. Particularly bad beats, other ones from Week 17. I mean, Drake London last night, Ted McMillan, both of them played a ton, just not used at all. 1 catch apiece, a total of 9 yards between them. Alec Pierce, catchless, and to actually watch how that went for Pierce makes it all the more devastating to me too, because of the 5 targets, woof, I mean, he should have had 1 touchdown for sure and could have easily had another one. There's one in the third quarter. He just roasts man coverage, should have been a long touchdown, and Phillip Rivers just can't throw it deep enough, isn't physically capable, which that has to factor into the equation. We have to know who the quarterback is. It matters. But it was, very unfortunate. And then with 18 seconds left in the game, I don't know that it would have led to a touchdown, but could have been a bunch of yards, and that throw was floated like a soap bubble as well. That's a tough one for sure. Bucky Irving, just an insane no-show by the Buccaneers, who incidentally now can win their showdown Saturday with the Panthers and still lose the NFC South if the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday. Kenny Gainwell, remember that he's Kenny Gainwell. Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb, Jared Goff. That seems like a long time ago. That was way back on Christmas, but 5 turnovers, rough. Sam Darnold really turned into a fantasy pumpkin there at the end. Matthew Stafford last night. I made big noise about, you got to start the quarterback on the NFL's premier offensive wagon, and Stat Padford, he gave you something. It wasn't Jared Goff, but does appear to have punted away the MVP award with 3 interceptions against the Falcons. But on the other hand, guys we were relying on who were in lineups who came through, Brock Purdy and Drake May, massive. Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey. I'm looking at the list. I thought it would have been hard to sneak Ramondre Stevenson into lineups with Travion Henderson active, but if you found a way to do it, you were surely paid off with his 2 early touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet, equally difficult to trust, gets stuffed at the goal line in that game in Carolina approximately 7,000 times, but by golly, twice he poked it in the end zone, and they all count. Not really a huge weekend at all for wide receivers. Not a single wide receiver did 20-plus standard fantasy points, and only one, Jamar Chase, scored multiple touchdowns. Only a grand total of 19 wide receiver touchdowns scored on 32 NFL teams. That's wild. Luther Burden, he was someone I hope you started. I certainly had him ranked as a starter. Chris Olave and Stephon Diggity and Michael Wilson all ranked as fantasy starters and played like it. What I'll always try and tell you, this isn't baloney. It's really how I feel. Getting to your fantasy playoffs year in, year out, that's where your skill as a fantasy player shows. And then the last few weeks, that's poker. You need cards. If you get dealt bad cards, there's just not a whole lot you can do. I'm such an idiot. I should have played Jake Tonjes. I mean, it was arguable, but there's a world where Jake Tonjes does nothing in that Sunday night game. And you want to know how I know that? I saw him for a month in September as the Niners starter with Brock Purdy as his quarterback, never topped more than 4 catches in a game and averaged 31 yards in a game. It's predicting sports, people. And if it was easy to predict sports, we'd all live in nicer houses than we currently live in. So it was a fun ride. Of course, the most fun for me is hanging out with all of you. And of course, we're going to keep going. We got a fun topic for today's show. We've got some interesting, fun debates coming up that are maybe a little more NFL focused for this week's Yacht Club show, Wednesday with Paywall Andy. Friday, it'll be the postseason Huggies and Baggies, and the show will continue from there. So stay subscribed and be happy, be mad, be sad. In the end, try and let it be like the tide. The tide is not in your control. Worth appreciating for its beauty and its fun. Also worth letting go, because the next wave is coming.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, I mentioned it'll be a fun topic. Chris Raybon, my pal from the Action Network, is going to join. And like we did last year, Chris and I are simply going to take a step back, talk about players who we enjoy on film. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're instantly going to be amazing for fantasy in a dynasty league or in a redraft league next year, though that might mean that, it could mean that. But the main criteria, players whose film we love. I think it'll be fun, and I thank you again so much for listening today. We are sponsored again by Soul, maybe my personal favorite discovery of 2025, because instead of pouring a cocktail some of the time, I've reached for Sol's out-of-office drink. 0 alcohol, 0 hangover, a delicious, bubbly THC beverage. And actually, other times you've heard me mention the out-of-office gummies, also delightful. Sol makes feeling good simple. THC products, I trust. You know, the boys who come play poker at the yacht always see me bringing out the out-of-office THC beverage, an easy, calming buzz that's just healthier than alcohol. Every product from Sol is made from organically farmed USA hemp. It's vegan, low sugar, gluten-free, and legal. I feel really good about this discovery, and I feel much better in the morning too because, as I say, no hangover. Give yourself the gift of a healthier unwind. Right now, Sol is offering 30% off your entire order. Go to getsol.com and use the code Harris. That's GETSOUL.com. There's a box in my fridge. I actually took a gummy watching Rams-Falcons last night. I do think you'll like it. It's 30% off when you go to getsol.com and use that code Harris.
Today's guest.
Sometimes it feels like Chris is a bother.
You don't answer questions when I ask them.
Sometimes it feels like Chris is my friend.
This is great. I love talking about this stuff with you.
Is the email he sent me the email of fashion?
Oh, you.
Can't say that word.
I'll just ignore it. I doubt he will mind.
Well, you know, I'm his friend. You know, he sometimes can't tell because I yell at the guests sometimes. But, you know, Chris Raybon from the Action Network is joining. He's had such a good season, and I know because I tail him. I tail him on the Action Network app. I tail him on the YouTube, YouTube version of the podcast that he does with Stuckey. Like, you're good at your job, man.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks, friend. I appreciate you.
I would be if I were you and if I had a sports betting app that I liked, I would follow Chris Raybon because the man is pretty good. And actually, before we get to the main topic of the day, we were reminiscing about you came on in August, and I'm always like, okay, let's do the season long, like what our favorite bets are for teams and for players and stuff like that. I didn't look at every like player prop that we picked, and I will do that at some point. We'll review, but just for the headlining team props, I believe you were 4-0 and I was 0-4.
Yeah, man. I mean, you'll regress back to the mean. It happens. I think you had crushed it 2024, so you're due to regress.
I was due some. I did good last season, not this season. So you had Steelers over 8.5 wins. They're at 9. I had Jets over 5.5 wins. Oops. Just not exactly.
I mean, dude, they're like legendarily bad. Like
a special kind of bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the Dolphins under 7.5, which as long as they don't upset the Patriots this week, that's going to happen. I had the 49ers under 10.5. I believe that ship has sailed. You said now, granted, it was minus 165, but you had your team that you felt best to make the playoffs. You had Broncos at minus 165, and I had the Vikings, not close, minus 120. In fact, the team you felt best to miss the playoffs was the Vikings, correct, plus 100. And legendarily, of course, the only thing you remembered about any of my picks when we were reviewing this, who did I pick to miss the playoffs?
The Patriots, right?
That's correct.
Had to be. I do remember that because I was like, dude, for a Patriots fan, like as a Giants fan, I get it. Like I get it, man. But like as a Patriots fan, I'm like, bro, this is like, I know you guys are not used to having losing seasons, but like Drake May, I remember we talked about on this show last year. I think I was like really high on him, so I was just like a little surprised about that one. But yeah, that one, I'm mad I didn't give out the Lions. I had actually bet too to miss the playoffs at like 2-something, but I guess the line had probably shifted, which is why I didn't give it out last year. But that was actually one of my best bets for this year, was because like everyone was on the Lions. I won't say it, but
hard one to fade, but you faded them. I mean, I sent this out on social media last night. The swing in the actual current MVP odds based on a couple of throws last night is wild, and probably not a very efficient market. Would you agree with that? Like going into the weekend before Drake May did what he did on Saturday, that it was I think it was Stafford minus 380, May plus 300. Then before Monday night, but after Sunday, when May had a good game, it was Stafford minus 225, May plus 180. If that's the odds, should one game change it to where now, at least as of last night, it was May minus 370, Stafford plus 300? Should one game really sway it that much?
It shouldn't, but it's a wide open race, and it's an inefficient market, but I think in a good way for bettors, because usually those markets where you have, like, for example, touchdown markets can be challenging, because like I always say, I love the playoffs, especially late in the playoffs, because you get to bet no on guys to score a touchdown. So it's usually hard to kind of bet a market where you can't kind of get the other side. But with the MVP, especially when it's wide open like this, like, it was easy to see that Drake May wasn't completely out of it, even when he was plus 300. So it's just the thing about these markets is you got to be kind of betting them like the same way you're kind of following the odds, after every game. The best way to take advantage of that would be, making those bets. Like, okay, well, it's up in the air. It's going to be one of these two. So always bet the guy who's like plus 300. And then you'll probably end up profiting if you do it kind of smart, because if you started early in the year, I'm sure May, what did he open at? May probably opened like way high too. So, but there's ways to kind of take advantage of that, I think, because it's not efficient, but that's why the books kind of overprice the favorites, and therefore, even with the added juice, the underdogs and the guys who aren't expected to win are usually values.
It's funny because when it was 21-0 at the half last night, then the odds were terrible. Then they staged the comeback, they tie the game. It went back to Stafford being favored, and then because I was, I'd already won the fantasy finals that I was in that depended on last night's game, so I was kind of just seeing what was going to happen with the MVP market, and it went back to Stafford being a slight favorite over May when the score was tied, and then at the very end, now this morning I'm looking at, as we record, it's minus 400 Drake May, plus 300 Stafford. I guess I don't really even care who wins MVP. I certainly would rather my team win a Super Bowl than my player win an MVP. Would the value still currently be on Stafford at plus 300?
So it's interesting because the thing is, McVay's saying they're going to play, right? So, but you would think the Patriots are going to play too. So I think so. I mean, if Stafford's really going to play, then he has another chance to, put up a massive game, and, Drake May could just put up a normal game or whatever happens, and it could shift back. So, yeah, I mean, the value's still on Stafford. Like, the value's definitely not on Drake May. Right. I'll put it that way. So yeah, the only bet, like, it was probably better to, like, when you were following them, like these weeks leading up to this last week, it was probably more efficient to bet on the underdog, because you would have gotten a Drake May at that price, which I think he is the rightful favorite now. But the value is on Stafford. Especially if he plays. Now you gotta, if it just sounds like he's gonna play a couple snaps, then that's different.
Right. Okay. Well, interesting.
It's Mace to lose. It's Mace to lose.
It does feel like it's Mays to lose. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, it was Stafford's to lose clearly going into last night, and he lost it. That was a vintage Matthew Stafford. That was Lions Matthew Stafford. That was. Right. That's. Yeah, it was post breaking that record for, like, what did he have a record for, like, most consecutive touchdowns without a pick or something like that? And then he threw the touchdown in the Carolina game, and then he just had like 3 picks immediately. It's like, it's like that, what I mean? Once you relax, it just comes out in bunches. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a fun list that we're about to do. It's just 5 players we like, that we like watching play. It can mean that they could be good for, like you said, on this list at this time last year, you put Drake May. I don't think you put it assuming he was going to be MVP. I don't think anybody could have seen this kind of leap, but you liked what you saw. At least it raises people as antennas to say, okay, let's check in on these guys' value for fantasy as we go. But that isn't a requirement. I mean, last year we both had Marvin Mims on our list, and I don't think either one of us was saying, Marvin Mims, definite fantasy star. That's not the point of this list. It's just he's a really fun player. I haven't changed my mind about Marvin Mims. It's the Broncos view him as a gadget guy. Super fun. Like, he's really fun to watch. They just, good returner and stuff. So that's not a requirement, but it can kind of work its way into also being a fantasy conversation, which is why we do it. You showed me your list beforehand, and which is the guests often don't show me the list beforehand. But in this case, I was very glad you did because we overlapped on 2 players, which is wild of all the players we could have picked. So right. I'm gonna tack away. I'm gonna veer away from one of them. Okay. I have the issue that as like throughout November and December, we've been doing forward-looking lists throughout, and so I'm just trying to name different guys. If I go back to the same guys again and again, it's just boring. So I'm trying to pick out different guys, but the criteria is pretty fun because it's just a matter of do you like them on film. So we'll count them down. It's a pointless countdown, of course. Who'd be your number 5 player you love on film?
Do you want the just missed too, or just you want to just jump right into 5?
Well, jump right into 5, and we'll get to just missed at the end. Yeah.
All right. Number 5, Parker Washington, wide receiver, Jacksonville Jaguars. So he's kind of a little bit similar to what we were talking about with Mims, where, you think of him as a gadget guy, at least, that's what he was kind of doing for Jacksonville. And then he got a chance to kind of be this number 3 receiver this year. And when I watch him play, I'm like, my thing with these kind of guys, if you're not a outside, just alpha straight up like Mike Evans type, it's like, okay, could you do this on high volume? Like if you got like Julian Edelman Patriot level targets, like, 150 targets a year, could you still do this? And Parker Washington actually strikes me as a guy who could. And remember, the Jaguars in general have just been in just terrible situations these last few years with, they had Peterson and Press Taylor, just an archaic offense. Lawrence wasn't developed, but for Washington to play this well, and, he did it with guys like that were going to draw more coverage out. He did it like as the, one of the top receivers. He did it once Thomas came back and Strange came back. Like he's just done it in a variety of ways. He's done it on special teams. He's done it on offense. He's put up 100-yard games. He's scored touchdowns in the red zone. He scored longer touchdowns. So I'm liking the diversity in his game. I like the fact that he could go and take hits over the middle, and he tends to pop right up. I know he had an injury for a couple games this year, but yeah, I like what I saw out of Parker Washington this year.
So he's the one who I took out of my list because I saw your list. He was going to be on my list. I don't know anything about his fantasy future, so it's not really about that. But he's a good little player, and he's not that little, but he's not huge. Half his routes from the slot, something like that. Plenty of his production did come from out wide, although, that distinction is really blurring in the NFL now. Sometimes quote unquote out wide isn't that wide. It's just there's a guy inside you.
It's the X. It's the X. It's the real wide is just the guy who's like tethered. There's certain guys like they're only going to line up at X, and then they're not really going to they're not going to be able to motion. But yeah, Washington, he'll play the Z and just so whether he's inside or outside doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter too much. But and obviously the numbers for all these guys have happened late in the year because the Jags suddenly decided they're a wagon. Just one of the offenses that all of a sudden, wow, I just need Jags on my team, which is crazy.
William Cohn, William Cohn, we trust, man. Like that was we were high on him coming into the year, I think, and I mean it took a while, but
and plus year over year this stuff changes because their offensive line stayed relatively healthy, and it can change. There's an overlap skills wise between Washington and Jacoby Myers, and Myers signed, so I think Washington's more athletic though and stronger, more of like a little bit of a downfield player too. Only 6 feet, but wins contested catches. Brian Thomas got hurt, faded, whatever. Parker Washington was more the guy who took the downfield slack up. I think we might look back on his career and say that he was maybe a bit of a one-year wonder. This was his pop year. He hit it at a moment when they didn't have any other healthy receivers and the Jags decided they were good. But still, he was super fun. I mean, just even watching this Colts game, he was the one who kind of shook them out of their lethargy. So I love that pick. He is a really fun player.
Yeah.
I
could see him winning before you go. I was just gonna say, when you're looking back on his career, I could see him being one of those guys that like you're right, he might end up leaving Jacksonville. I don't know if they are gonna have a spot for him forever, but I could see him winning like three or four Super Bowls as like the number 4 receiver on just good team. Like he'll just be that guy because when you can return punts, play inside, play outside. You're not really dropping the football, and you can kind of command targets over, guys that are just better than you on a consistent basis. I think it lends well to winning.
All right, so my 5, I do have some rookie receivers on this list.
Okay.
I used him on a list back in November. He's the only guy I've used on a list, but it's been a while since I mentioned him because he suddenly, as soon as I mentioned him on a list, he got hurt and was out for the season. But Tory Horton,
Ooh, just missed for me. So love it.
I don't know if Rashid Shaheed resigns there. It hasn't gone very well. They traded him traded for him with the idea. We're definitely gonna resign this guy, Clint Kubiak. Yeah, I didn't really use him.
It's gone well. It's gone well. He won them a game essentially. He won them two games with returning punts when their offense would go into like a Sam Darnold hole. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see whether because Shaheed's going to make some money on the open market. JSN obviously comes first there. The last play I saw Tory Horton make was against the Commanders. It was an insane release. It was on national TV. I think Collinsworth fell off his chair. It was against Mikey Sainer still, who
wide open, right?
Pretty good, yeah. He
wide open.
Beat him off the line, and then just easy separation. Tory Horton,
wide open,
really fast guy. I don't know about his situation, but he was a nice little revelation around midseason.
Yeah, he is. He's very talented. He's a guy that was on my radar coming into the year. It was just okay, there's JSN and there's nobody else. I thought Cup probably had a better season than I thought he would have, but yeah, I think Horton, had he stayed healthy, they may have not traded for Shaheed, and he may have been he probably would have been in line to be that number 2 receiver next year. Now it's a little more cloudy, so we'll see.
We're sponsored again by Henson Shaving. I'm really happy I made the switch to Henson. I think we used to be sponsored by a different shave company, and I liked them, but it never really sat well with me. I felt like I was throwing away so much plastic. In fact, more than 2 billion plastic razors enter landfills each year in the U.S. alone. Henson wants to change shaving. No plastic and no subscriptions. I made the switch to Henson's aluminum razor made in an aerospace machine shop. The result is a good shave that's much easier on my skin because the blades don't bend or flex. And the Henson razor works with standard dual-edged razor blades that cost less than 10 cents each. Once you've got the Henson razor, it's like $3 to $5 a year to replace blades, and there's no plastic in the razor and no plastic in the packaging. I feel like this is a change we need, and the shave is great. No subscriptions and a razor that will last forever. Go to hensonshaving.com/Harris to pick out a razor and use the code Harris. They'll send you 100 blades free, enough for 2 years of shaving. Just make sure to add it to your cart. HENSON shaving.com/Harris and use that code Harris. Okay, we're back with Chris, and we are counting down players we love on film. Who's your number 4, Chris?
Harold Fannin Jr., man. Oh, I mean, this guy, I was just so impressed that he did it all year with all of the terrible Browns quarterbacks because, it was coming into the year, it was okay, they have Njoku and they have this other guy who's he could be involved too. They might end up playing a lot of 2 tight ends or wide receivers stink. And then you watch Fannin play and it's okay, he's actually legitimately getting open and is a number 1 target. And he's a first read on a lot of their plays, it looks like. And he still gets open and gets the ball and makes catches, just with this just terrible, awful quarterback play in Cleveland all year. He's done it in weather. He's done it down the field. He's done it underneath. He's done it against linebackers, safeties. I can't say enough about him because sometimes you see guys like Gary Barnidge. Remember that one year Gary Barnidge popped off? Yeah. So it's you see guys right. So you see guys like that on a bad team. And, it's just somebody has to get targets, right? So it was Barnidge that one year. But with Fannin, this was an all year thing. This was against Buffalo is on paper anyway, very good defense against tight ends. And, what is Fannin, it's every week there's something with this guy. He just manages to produce in some type of way. So hope the injury doesn't affect him long term, but just a really good player from start of the year to end of the year. So I thought improved, but I thought looked really good even from week 1. I would say I think he made 6 or 7 catches in week 1, but yeah, I think he's just he's got a bright future, especially if the Browns can rectify their that quarterback situation, which probably won't happen, but
but that's not this list. That's not this list. Andy Behrens will be on the show tomorrow. I will tell him that you love him because Fannin, that is, because so does Andy. And I do too.
Like Andy too.
But the thing about Fannin, he's an interesting profile because he came in the small school he didn't like completely blow away his combine, and people talking about he's a weird prospect. Like, I expected him to be really weird. I had a joke early in the season, like I thought he was going to be running on his hands, like they talked about that he just, it's kind of a weird runner,
stocky.
like
a little stocky there, 6'4" to like 235 or something.
Yeah, interesting body type for a tight end when they come a lot bigger now, and like kind of all hips and elbows and like flailing around, and it just worked. And you're right, it's hard to know when nothing else in an offense works, and it's everything's a check down. But I kind of do tend to believe that ball skills wise, like they hand it to him some. He's good in the red zone, like as a potential like wildcat quarterback. I tend to think he's a good player and headed for good stuff, even if it's not maybe amazing for fantasy right away, because maybe the Browns won't figure it out.
It's those mid-round guys. So it's like when there's guys that come into the league and people are down on them for whatever reason. Okay, they weren't fast enough, or they didn't have quite as much production as we needed, and they just ball out. Those are usually the guys that end up being really good, because it's like there's something else there. There's just football skill, and that was what you can, if you try to compartmentalize it into a succinct draft profile, you miss, because everyone who's doing these like these draft things these days, like they're scouting so many players. So it's like like Puka Nacua, look at him. It's like same thing. It's like, what is so special about him? We don't know. Cooper Kupp, like those mid-round guys, when they hit, they tend to hit big. So yeah, I'm a believer in Fannin for that exact reason. I don't think I think people just kind of missed it.
So I have at number 4, I have a made guy, an obvious, like he's a star in the league. He's a star in fantasy, but I got, I've used these lists to talk about a lot of running backs. I want to put running backs on the list. I'm sort of out of running backs. So I put Chase Brown on the list. And so like everybody listening knows that I like Chase Brown, that he was a great discovery for the show last year. What prompted me to do it was not so much we're gonna have like a real argument about whether Chase Brown is good, but someone in the live stream, it might have been Ali in the live stream on Sunday, asked the question about Chase Brown, like 10,000 foot question. In Dynasty, are you a buyer or are you seller of Chase Brown? And my response was, I wouldn't think that you're so much a buyer, because like his price is really high. People are going to think he's a young player who's been really good for fantasy for 2 straight years. But so he's already at the apex. But I believe in the apex, so I would not be a seller. I don't think it's a worry that the Bengals are gonna keep bringing in some other running back to challenge him, and even if Taj Brooks and Samaje Perine, I just think in the end the cream will rise to the top, and that Chase Brown's really good, and he's not of the body type that I want him to be doing the Derrick Henry workload. I mean, even Derrick Henry doesn't do the Derrick Henry workload anymore. So I don't need him touching it 80% of the time. He's terrific, as he showed during the fantasy championships this weekend. He's terrific near the goal line. He's a really good pass receiver. I just think you should be happy to be in the Chase Brown business if you have him in a dynasty league.
Yeah, I guess I was high on him too. People were down on him because I guess he wasn't very efficient, behind that offensive line last year, and his rushing yards were under expectation and whatnot. But yeah, I think he's a great receiver. Him and Joe Burrow, especially, like they worked on it a lot in the offseason. And yeah, they put him in high leverage situations, and they scheme up screens and stuff to him too. They just want the ball in his hands. So I think he's a really good player. I like what I see too. I don't think the stats always tell the whole story, because their O-line is so bad most of the time. And then they run a lot out of shotgun, which is just not always as efficient for running backs. So yeah, I think Brown's really good.
And just to show those expected metrics, you're right. Last year, his expected metrics were bad. This year, and on a percentage basis of rushing over expected, he's 6th among qualified running backs.
There you go.
Year. Just from year to year, expected, it can change based on just one 90-yard run where they thought you should have been tackled.
Exactly.
So I just don't put tons of stock in that. Who's your number 3?
I was going to say, yeah, for receivers, I think it matters a little more. But yeah, number 3, Tucker Kraft. So Tucker Kraft, I thought Fannin was great, but I think the best tight end film of the year was probably Tucker Kraft. He just unfortunately only had half a year of film. But yeah. I mean, it's really hard to, as a tight end, to like separate yourself yardage wise and continue to make splash plays. And it was just like this guy was able to just keep doing it. And the thing about him is I always love guys that could, because we talk, we're still kind of fantasy focused. I feel like this list is not a fantasy list, but like I like the fact that Tucker Kraft can block because that just keeps him on the field. Because Musgrave was drafted, I believe, more highly, and but they don't trust him as a blocker as much. And so even when Kraft got hurt, like Musgrave, he would rotate out for Fitzpatrick and Wiley, and it was just weird. But with Kraft, it's like he's in there every snap. He can take short screens, turn them into big plays. He can go down the field. He can break tackles. I mean, he was probably on his way to like a George Kittle like season had he stayed healthy. Like that's who he kind of reminded me. He's just always breaking tackles, always hitting people in the run game, and he's explosive. So yeah, I love Tucker Kraft.
I love him too, and I think you're right. His superpower is that he can be on the field like Kittle. That's Kittle's superpower too. Like sometimes it is just a matter of circumstance. Especially in the red zone, like you're right. Both of those guys are making big plays after the catch. That's about their athletic ability and being studs, being physical freaks. But if you can be on the field in the red zone and have your presence not be an alert that it's definitely a passing play, that's huge. That's huge for fantasy. It's really huge for your touchdown total. It's funny, like I don't think Kraft registers on the true like Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, like the absolute apex top of the line physical, unbelievable. They're all freaks. They're all physical freaks. But I think Kraft is like, he's fast enough and has enough wiggle, but he's just strong like bull. You cannot tackle this dude in the open field. So many of his big plays are, that shouldn't be a big play. Oh my God, he just ran over that guy. And it was shaping up to be like a good year. I mean, he had 2 games over 60 yards receiving. Those 2 games were massive. But still, I mean, he looked at times, because Christian Watson wasn't really playing at that point, he looked like the number 1 receiver on that team. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, and it's like, that was also impressive because it's like the Packers, there's a lot of competition for targets there. I mean, I know their receivers, like 5 of them get hurt every game, but the fact that Kraft was, I mean, his presence was just there week after week. And even if he wouldn't put up like a big statistical game, that's the point. Like the film just looked good. Like even his little 12-yard catches just look really good.
Agreed. Like the player. I'm going to do another rookie receiver at number 3 on my list. He's replacing Parker Washington. It was really Parker Washington, but I also like Jayden Higgins.
Yeah.
There's talk about receiver competition in a worse environment. Not so much because the Texans have CJ Stroud, but because they don't have an offensive line of any shape at all. And so it's just been very hard to get even Nico Collins going on an every week basis, let alone the cavalcade of, other guys, capital O, capital G, other guys, like too many other guys. And, Jalen Noel is a really fast player and clearly could be a game breaker and a good returner and stuff. So I don't know if Jayden Higgins ever in this iteration of the Texans winds up being someone you can rely on for fantasy, but he does do that thing. He does have the big body, fast, and like if you're big, if you have the big body and you're fast, I mean, he's not that fast, but pretty fast, can be a downfield player. The question is, are you Marquez Valdez-Scantling or are you something better than that? And there were enough moments he had a little spike in the middle of the year where he made a couple plays in the red zone and they were really good plays where he absolutely popped on film. When you saw ball skills where you go, oh, if that's who you are, in addition to having that size, I'm interested. It's completely, I have no idea how that is going to work out. The Texans have to concentrate on the offensive line. Don't add any more receivers, please. You got enough guys. I believe in Stroud enough to believe in a possible second receiver. I don't know for sure that it would be Higgins over Noel, but I would say, like, from a fun watching them on film perspective, Higgins top Noel for me.
Yeah, and I think it would be Higgins if they get their offensive line together, but it might be him either way. Because Noel was still splitting snaps with Christian Kirk, and I think it's like the way, like you mentioned, like, okay, Higgins is not super fast, he's fast enough. In this day and age, that's really enough. I think ball skills are more important because everyone's playing too deep shell. It's like these guys that are super fast and just gonna like break somebody like like Tory Horton did. they're going to do that like one or two times on film, and the defenses are going to say, nope, we're playing too deep shell. It's just that some defenses stubbornly will, come out and try to play single high. But once a guy beats you a couple of times and it's on film, that's not going to really happen in the future. So I think Higgins is the second best receiver on that team. And like Noel it'll be probably him with like in that Tank Dell role. So it could lead to like the top year or the second best year out of Texan receivers any given year. But if they have it the way they're looking at it, I think they're not banking on a terrible offensive line for the duration of Stroud's career. So I think Higgins, I think he has a lot of potential to be kind of like a T Higgins in Cincinnati.
We are sponsored by my good friends at Lisa, who fortunately make the mattress I sleep on. You know that I'm a bi-coastal Lisa sleeper. And of course, not everyone hearing the sound of my voice this moment needs a new mattress this very second. But if you happen to know that it's been a while since you've replaced your mattress and you've been waking up stiff and sore, it really might be time. Each mattress from Lisa is designed with specific sleep positions and preferences in mind. I swear by them. I sleep great. And did you know that Lisa now lets you sleep on your new bed for 4 months before you have to decide if it's perfect for you? 120 nights in the new year. And if you don't love it, complete money-back guarantee. They've got a New Year's sale coming up in 2 days. It's 25% off all mattresses when you go to leesa.com. And if you check out using the code Harris, they'll take an extra $50 off the top. Folks, you've heard me talk about them for years. I've slept on a Lisa for like a decade. If it's time for you to think about a new bed, please do check them out. Starting on New Year's, 25% off at leesa.com, and for an extra $50 off, use that code Harris. Okay, we're back with Chris, and we are getting to the exciting parts of our lists. We are counting down our favorite players on film, some of them from the past NFL fantasy season. We're up to your number 2.
Jaxson Dart. Love Jaxson Dart. I know there's a lot of talk about, the injuries and can he stay healthy long term? And, does this regime even is he going to even be a starter and all these things? But I thought he was really good on film. Every game except that Vikings game, which was just more like, it seemed like they didn't want to mess with Flores or the wind. So they just kind of took it, reined everything in. But pretty much every other game, I thought Jaxson Dart has played very, very good football, considering he's a rookie on a team that's not really very talented. I mean, he took over, I think it was the week before the week of that Neighbors injury. So he really hasn't had a great receiving core. I mean, he's made Wan'Dale Robinson look like statistically look like a star in the box score a lot of weeks. I love the way he runs. I do agree he gets hit too much, but the point is he can run. He can take hits. He's like what Daniel Jones was for like 3 weeks with the Colts, but like much better than that and from the jump. So I think, I don't think he's Drake. Like I put Drake May, I think, at number 2 on this list last year. I don't think he's playing as just like seamlessly fluid as Drake May was by the end of last year, to where you knew he was like, all right, this guy kind of could make other guys stars, but I think there's the potential for that. Like I think he's that guy from this year's class that just kind of it stands out, and it's like, okay, he was on a 3 and 13 team, 3 and 14 team. So and he got hurt, missed some time. So I don't know how much the national just consensus realizes how good he was, but I thought he was much better than what the Giants were as a whole this year.
Yeah, another Barron's favorite. For sure, part of the story with Dart is going to be, can he protect himself? That's not this list, though. This list is just, they're super fun to watch on film. He has been super fun to watch. There are games where the Giants clearly should have won. He did enough to win the Broncos game. He played awesome in that game, and just the defense was so bad, and they made stupid coaching decisions, and they couldn't figure it out, and they didn't win games. It's funny, the person who made Wan'Dale maybe look the best was Jameis in that Lions game.
True. Yeah, no, the Lions. Maybe the Lions they make every receiver look pretty good, but
maybe the Lions. The question I have about Dart, he wouldn't be on this list for me, but he is fun. The question I have about him is if you make him be, teams didn't, by the end of the year, they knew the Giants just didn't have enough players to hurt them. Not counting Dart, like there's other players to hurt them. And so they just weren't really focused on, okay, we really got to contain this guy. We have to make sure we only, keep contained. Can Jaxson Dart play regular quarterback? I know he can play the runaround kind of quarterback. And I don't feel like I have a full appreciation of that. He has some dumb throws on his film. And but I mean, so did Caleb Williams, and he's gotten better. Like, he can certainly, I'm not like ruling out the possibility of Jaxson Dart getting back. I mean, he's your franchise's NFL starting quarterback next year. Sounds like you're okay with that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like I remember in the draft process, I thought he was being overlooked just because of the whole, Shedeur Sanders hype. Like, I was hearing that teams were considering Dart number 1 overall. And now, looking back, you can obviously see why. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. I mean, even Drake May last year, look at him. Like, the receiving core was so bad that there were questions about him as far as being a thrower, but you could kind of see it in the throws he did make. And I think, Dart, he's like the mistakes for Dart seem to be correctable. And I don't like, sometimes you look at it and say, okay, guys can correct like this footwork thing, or this is, it's like with Dart, it's just, really just some dumb like brain farts. There's things that you would think would, like, I remember, I think it was against the Saints. He just like fumbled the ball, like, just like dropped it on the ground. It's like, okay, like that's not going to happen. Like, that's just, even if he still does that more than average, it's still not going to happen very often. So, but the things that he can do well, like throwing the ball to any part of the field, knowing when to run, when to throw, and, being able to anticipate at times and get the ball to guys, even without that much time, I think that translates well.
And of course, we do like to refer to him as the surf movie bad guy. His nickname is Jaxson Dart, surf movie bad guy, which is very appropriate. My number 2, and another made guy at running back, but worth talking about the fact how much I like him. Another player that everybody listening who listens regularly knows that I like, J.K. Dobbins. I think he faced the 3rd most stacked defensive boxes among any running back in the league. Still performed really well. I know for fantasy, the touchdowns were frustrating, even before he got hurt, because Sean Payton fell in love with R.J. Harvey near the goal line. But just comparing those 2 Bronco running backs on tape, Dobbins will hit it, and Harvey feels like he either gets stopped right away or else he's trying to run around it. And he was able to. He saved some folks in the fantasy championships against the Chiefs by making the one run. I think Dobbins is just more direct, more efficient, makes the offense run the way it's supposed to run. I know people are going to say, yeah, but he gets hurt. It's true. This injury, though, was a hip drop tackle. I know he's been injury prone. Are we going to penalize him for hurting himself on a hip drop? He's a free agent, worth mentioning, and I think proved his worth on a good team. I guess there's a chance he could get back for the Super Bowl. They're saying now the possibility that he could be right by February. Do I think J.K. Dobbins is like destined to be a top 12 running back in the league? I don't. I just think he's a good player and has spent these 2 years like really rehabbing his image in my mind. And he doesn't run like a dude who's afraid to get hurt. He definitely, as they say, sticks his nose in there, and I like watching him.
Yeah. I mean, I almost wonder if this was his peak, because he's just been a really good player his entire career, but he's going to be 28 next year coming off this injury. That's really the thing. You just wonder if he can keep it up. But up until this point, he's been like completely undervalued. I think it's just every year he would get hurt. But if you look at his numbers, you look at the film, he's always among the most efficient backs, and he just looks like one running. Like he said, he looked better on film than a guy who is just like super fast and athletic. And he's 27, and what is Harvey, like 22, 23? So yeah, J.K. Dobbins is a good looking player. I just hope he can get back after another injury.
I hope he can too, but this is like a foot tear. It just feels like he's come back from multiple ACLs, and I feel like this is like having a head cold. He'll be fine. All right, so I happen to know a secret, which is that we have the same player at number 1, and I didn't switch him out, even though I saw your list. So who is your number 1 player that you've enjoyed watching on film?
Luther Burden.
Me too.
Yeah, right. He gets open, gets a lot of separation, and one thing I like is, and this is where it helps not to be like a super big like Jayden Higgins body type, but like when Burden catches the ball over the middle or on crossing routes, it's like he doesn't just like roll into the ground like a Tyler Lockett or like some of those bigger guys. Like he catches the ball and it's like his first instinct is a lot of times to like make a juke or something like that. And it's worked a bunch of times. Think of that Niners game. It was like he caught a ball on the sideline instead of just letting his momentum carry him out of bounds. He kind of juked back in and made a couple of extra cuts and made some yardage there. But yeah, he can get open over the top. He can get open. He get threatened down the field, and he's been doing it at all levels, which is something you always at that body type. You kind of all right. Can he do it at all three levels? And so far, he's been doing it at all three levels enough for me. So yeah, I thought he looked really good, and obviously, still adding to that, just had a really good game. Probably, yeah, his best game of his career this week.
Yeah, he's number one, and when I saw that he was your number one, I thought, all right, let's just both keep him at number one so we can talk some Luther Burden. He obviously didn't do very much to start the year. The Bears talked about how much they loved Olamide Zaccheaus all summer, and then they didn't play Burden very much. I think if there's a worry about Luther Burden's long-term outlook, it's not about his physical ability. He might be a little bit of a nut, and they're going to have to figure something out. Let's not have him be George Pickens. Like and it feels like they eased him in for exactly that reason. But once they got him in there, and especially once Rome Odunze was hurt, he became the pass offense, the leading weapon. So you talked. I just want to put a fine point on what you said because I agree with it. What we're talking about is him being small. By NFL wide receiver, he's not tiny, but he's not a Jayden Higgins. He's not a monster. And so you're right. When Tyler Lockett, also not small but not big, like that, he was the catch and fall down guy over the middle because you're trying to prolong your career, and that's not Luther Burden because after the catch,
yeah, more like Odell Beckham, right? Like early Odell Beckham. Like just keep going.
And so I have to check myself because sometimes I'm a little bit of like a zonist. I want to see a guy beating man coverage, and Luther Burden didn't beat a lot of man coverage this year. I went back for this list and watched some of these December games. There was a stop route in the second Packer game a couple weeks ago that was very good. He obviously can run that route, and the defender had to respect his deep speed, and he made a good timing catch. But like, let's face it, you said it. There's a lot of zone in the NFL. There's man under, but once you get past the linebackers, there's a lot of zone in the NFL. And this dude is just an absolute monster after the catch. The guy who I kept coming back to, and they're not that different in size, is like, imagine a faster Rashee Rice. And I feel like maybe that's Luther Burden. And he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes throwing him 3-yard slants, but kind of good. I'm always frustrated by how little Rashee Rice plays down the field. And Luther Burden gets to do it all. You said it, all three levels. And again, zone and finding him like on digs and stuff. Holy moly, he's just a terror after the catch. Yeah,
I think he's probably better than Rashee Rice, honestly. Like I think because Rashee Rice, that's his, like he's the number one receiver in Kansas City, but it's because they, no longer can get the ball downfield, or at least efficiently get it downfield. And so they're like, all right, we have the best quarterback in the league. Let's just spam Rashee Rice with underneath targets, which he's really good at. But like Luther Burden, like I think already can do it at, places of the field that Rashee Rice, they don't even try because I don't think he's that good at it. So, and then with the man coverage thing, it's like zone is the predominant coverage in the NFL. So
yes,
with man coverage, you only get so many, like, the average receiver would get like maybe 30% maybe against man. And then it just depends who's getting, who's getting the targets or whatnot. But so there's always going to be a small sample size with that. It's more, the talent is more important there. It's like, okay, some guys might have a bad year or bad stretch against man. It could be the quarterback. It could be a lot of different things. It could just be whatever, but it's like, does he have the physical talent to beat man? Like, would he be the first read against man coverage? Would he be the most likely guy on the team to win against man coverage? I think the answer with Burden is yes. So it's like, does it worry me he doesn't have like the greatest, out performance versus man this year? I mean, it wasn't like it was too bad. It was just, he's only played as the lead receiver for like not even a month. I mean, really a couple games so far. So yeah, I think there's a lot of upside there. Like I would say like it wouldn't be surprised thing to me if he turned into a Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player, like where it's just like every week we're just used to him catching like 6-7 balls, finding the end zone, and can go intermediate, probably a little more of a deep ball guy than Amon-Ra. But I wouldn't be surprised Ben Johnson offensive. He looks like that kind of player with a larger sample size.
I mean, he's faster than Amon-Ra. I have no question about that. After the catch, he's a dangerous man. We like the players who can roast man coverage because that tends to be where big plays come from. Mm-hmm. Fantasy winning weeks tend to come from if there's not safety help over the top, and you can win either a contested catch or simply you're just faster. But as you say, that's not most of what they do, and some players can make their bones just through volume, and then when it happens to be volume that maybe goes to a player who then after the catch is one of the scariest guys in the league, that sounds great to me. That takes away some of the risk of needing to be DK Metcalf and make the one play on the outside. So let me ask you this question. It is a fantasy question, and we don't really know specifically about the composition of the team next year, but sight unseen, just off the top of your head, I won't hold you to it. Next year, who's ranked higher among receivers for you, Luther Burden or Rome Odunze?
Luther Burden, no question. He's Ben Johnson came through.
So too.
Right? Yeah, Ben Johnson came through this year. Odunze was already on the team, right?
Yeah.
DJ Moore was already on the team.
Sure. I mean, I'll say I don't think that means Ben Johnson didn't want Rome Odunze. I just think Rome Odunze has sort of teased us, and I'm not talking about the injuries. There are too many games where he's not really open. He's the first read. They throw it to him. He's not really, the defender knocks it away. Sometimes he makes a play. I can't say that it's a landslide, but I think I would take Burden too.
Yeah, because sample size is it's like a double-edged sword. Because the thing about Odunze was he got a lot of reps last year too, and it was not great, not terrible. I mean, Caleb also missed him a ton, but it was he had a large enough sample size, so it's okay. He didn't he did enough to be intriguing for this year, but he didn't blow us away. And then this year he got that chance, and it was their question was, okay, is it going to be DJ Moore? Is it going to be Bird? So there were other guys that the defenses were kind of accounting for. He beat some single coverage early in the year, put up a bunch of nice games, but as true top option that it looked like was going to be that the Bears top receiver every week, he started to fade. And I think that especially for his body type, I think that's concerning because
me too.
I think right. Yeah. So because it's those guys, he's going to have his, he could very well end up being a Keon Coleman, where it's the more, no, seriously though, the more it's okay, we can cover this guy and we're just going to do that. I didn't see anything that made Rome Odunze uncoverable. I thought he was good at times, but it was when defenses concentrate on you, you got to have something else. And I don't know that he has it.
Yeah, I mean, Drake London is the constant comp. Just trust me, bro. He's going to be Drake London. And I'm okay, I see some plays. He wins. He's very physical. He wins. He's big. He wins in contested situations sometimes. But London is another kind of route runner, and I don't know that Odunze is that.
From the jump, too. London's rookie year, he was open. I mean, even McMillan, I think, is another guy. I think McMillan has already shown better than Odunze too. Or it's I thought maybe he would take some time, and it hasn't been amazing. But it's that's what I'm saying. With these body types, there's not as many Cortland Suttons, especially these days, because teams are already playing so much too high shell that it's if you're not beating it consistently at your most athletic kind of peak, which is still usually on the younger side for receivers, especially now that they're getting more reps, I don't know. I mean, he started the year super hot, and I think it's pretty concerning that he faded the way he did down the stretch, and now he's hurt.
Right, and I mean, it could turn out that he was hurt the whole time, and that's why he faded. Yeah. We don't know, but I think I'm with you. I come up with the same conclusion. Maybe it's recency bias. We'll have time in the winter to inspect how it looks in the totality of their games, but I think I would prefer Burden right now as well. Well, this was a blast. I loved your list. It was fun, guys, to talk about. I appreciate you doing this, and I hope folks will follow Chris on social media. Just look him up at Chris Raybon. And then my suggestion is to just subscribe to the Action Network YouTube show like I do. I'm subscribed, and every week it pops up, and we do the Sunday Six Pack, and Raybon, your picks are pretty good, man. I feel like you had a good year.
Yeah, man. I'm about to go record that soon after this. So this is fun. This will be a fun week. I don't know. I mean, my first thought was like, do I have to pick the Raiders? And then I was like, maybe not. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, brother. Well, you're a great guy for doing this. Happy New Year. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
And thank you so much for listening. And let me also thank the 3 sponsors that made today's show possible. Maybe a couple of new things you can try out and help the podcast. We had Soul for the out-of-office beverage and the gummies. We had Henson Shaving for a new way to think about shaving and not throw away plastic, which is a big deal these days. And then also, of course, Lisa, our old standby. It's an interesting story those 3 sponsors could tell together. There's a little, get nice, freshly shaven, pop a gummy, have some fun, go to sleep. You could find information about those sponsors in today's show notes. All the current sponsors are listed at harrisfootball.com. If you don't currently have a need in these areas, so happy to have you listening. If you don't have the means to support a sponsor right now, thank you so much for listening. It's cool. If you can see your way through to pick a sponsor and give them a shot, really does help the show. I do appreciate it. We're doing great, and it's really because of you. So, don't feel extra pressure. But if you, ever come across a sponsor that you think you might be able to use and use the codes, that does help. That will do it for this Tuesday episode. As I mentioned off the top, we're going to do a Yacht Club show on Wednesday morning with myself and one Mr. Andrew Behrens. We'll hear how his high-stakes league finals went. That'll be interesting. And then I have devised a quiz for Andy about the future in the NFL and players that he would want over other players and teams he believes in for the playoffs more than other teams and offensive wagons that may or may not persist from year to year. I think it'll be pretty fun. We'll see what his answers are. Hopefully, he's got some fun stuff to talk about. So that'll be on the Yacht Club subscription show on Wednesday. Then we'll all be back here on Friday. It'll be myself with the Postseason Huggy Awards. It will be Cousin Josh with the Postseason Baggy Awards. And that's right, a supercut of the entire 2025 season on this very stupid podcast. I hope you will tune in for that one as well. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you next time.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.